The feast of predators, the galaxy had always known fear. For centuries, it was ruled by a race that called themselves the Predators. They were tall, armored in living skin, and their eyes burned with hunger. To them, the stars were nothing more than hunting grounds, and every new species they met was only another meal. They moved like storms across the sky, leaving ruin behind. Whole worlds were silenced. Civilizations that had dreamed of peace, that had built cities and songs, were torn apart in days. The Predators did not build. They did not create. They only consumed. To them, strength was the only law. Any species that could not defend itself was weak, and weakness deserved only one reward: death. They came in great fleets of black metal, ships shaped like the jaws of beasts. When their engines burned across the night, every planet knew that it was already too late. The galaxy whispered about them in secret. Some called them demons. Others called them gods of death. In truth, they were neither. They were hunters, and they had no end to their hunger. For them, war was not survival. War was joy. Their leaders told stories of feasts on dying worlds. Their children were raised to see other beings as nothing but prey. It was their culture, their pride, their way of life. And so the feast continued. One world fell, and then another. A proud empire of thinkers vanished in fire. A union of starborn explorers was hunted to extinction. Even warriors from the far rim of the galaxy, known for their skill with plasma blades, were broken and served on the Predators' tables. Every victory fed their belief that they were invincible. They thought the galaxy belonged to them and them alone. No one dared resist. No one dared stand. Every time a rebellion rose, the Predators crushed it with ease. Fleets of hundreds were reduced to dust in hours. Armies of millions were scattered in minutes. Against them, there was no chance. Against them, there was only silence. Their empire grew until it stretched across star clusters. Their maps were marked not with names of worlds, but with symbols of conquest. Planets were not remembered for what they were, but for what they had provided in the great feast: meat, slaves, or simply screams that entertained the warlords. Yet even in their victory, the Predators wanted more. Their hunger could not end, and so they searched the edges of the known galaxy, seeking worlds untouched, lives unspoiled, prey unbroken. They found whispers of a small blue planet, a world rich with water, forests, and creatures unlike any they had seen before. Its people had not yet joined the wider galaxy. Its people were unknown. The Predators smiled when they heard. To them it was perfect, a world of prey isolated and fragile, a place that would fall like all the others. They prepared their fleets, great armadas of black steel. The warlords gathered in halls of bone and shadow. They raised their weapons and spoke of the new feast that awaited them. Another world for the table, one warlord said. Another species for the hunt, another answered. Soon, their leader growled, they will learn what it means to be prey. Their fleets moved out from hidden bases, engines roaring like thunder. Across the dark, their ships cut through the void, carrying with them the memory of countless victories. They felt no fear, no doubt. To them, this was only another hunt, another easy conquest. But the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Because in that small blue planet, something waited, something the Predators had never faced. The humans. Humanity was not known among the stars. To the galaxy, they were invisible, but to themselves, they were everything. They had fought wars against each other, built weapons that shook the ground, and survived every disaster nature had thrown at them. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the oldest race in the universe, but they carried something inside them, something no predator had ever seen in prey. Defiance. As the predator fleets crossed the silence of space, Earth's skies began to light with warnings. Telescopes caught the first shadows. Satellites captured the first images. Governments argued, scientists panicked, and soldiers prepared. Humanity knew fear, but fear did not break them. It hardened them. The predators believed they were walking into another easy feast. They believed the humans would bow, as all others had bowed before them. But already plans were being drawn. Already weapons were being aimed. Already humanity was preparing not to be prey, but to fight back. In the cold halls of their fleet, the predator warlord stood before his soldiers. His voice thundered across the ship. This new world will be ours. Its people will be meat. Its oceans will boil. Its forest will burn. And when the last of them falls, their cries will join the song of our feast. His warriors roared in answer, their voices shaking the metal walls. But on Earth, far below, another voice rose. A simple message broadcast into the void. The first words humanity ever spoke to the predators. "We are not prey." The words reached the predator fleet. For a moment, silence filled their halls. Then the warlord laughed, deep and cruel. To him it was nothing more than arrogance, the pride of weak prey. But the galaxy would remember those words. Because in that moment, the feast of predators began to end. The first defiance. The predator fleet cut across the void like a storm of steel. Dozens of warships, each one larger than a city, glowed with cruel fire. Their weapons were primed, their claws sharpened. On their command decks, hunters stood ready, certain of an easy victory. They had crushed empires greater than this unknown world. To them, Earth was nothing more than another step in their endless feast, but humanity was watching. On Earth, every screen showed the same images: dark shadows crossing the stars, enormous ships moving closer every hour. For a moment, panic ruled. People fled cities, leaders argued, and armies scrambled. But behind the fear came something stronger. Humanity had always faced enemies, disasters, and wars. This was not the first time they had looked death in the face. It would not be the last. World governments came together. Old rivalries and grudges were pushed aside. The message was simple: survive. Factories turned day and night producing weapons. Scientists opened secret projects that had been hidden for years. Soldiers were called from every corner of the globe. Humanity had never been so united. Still, they knew the truth. The predators were stronger. Their ships were larger, their weapons more advanced. Humanity could not win by power alone, but strength was not their only weapon. Humans had something else, something the predators had never learned. They could think in ways no hunter ever expected. The predator fleet reached the edge of Earth's orbit. They saw the blue planet spinning below, rich with oceans, forests, and light. To them, it was beautiful in the way a fresh kill was beautiful. Their warlord stood at the command deck and raised his voice. "Begin the harvest." Predator dropships fell like burning arrows from the sky. They broke through the clouds, tearing across the air, landing near cities and military bases. Clawed warriors poured out, their weapons glowing, their eyes burning with hunger. They expected screams. They expected surrender. What they found was fire. The first dropships were torn apart before their claws even touched the ground. Missiles hidden beneath the earth launched upward, exploding with thunder. Fighter jets, fast and agile, dove through the skies, striking ships far larger than themselves. Humans on the ground opened fire with weapons built for wars of their own making. For the first time in centuries, predator blood stained the soil. The warlord roared in fury. No world had ever dared resist in this way. He ordered more ships down, ordered the skies burned, ordered the humans to be crushed. But every step forward was answered with human defiance. Streets turned into traps. Bridges collapsed beneath alien machines. Entire cities became battlefields, every building a weapon, every street a kill zone. The predators were hunters trained for strength. But humans had learned to survive by any means. They used fire, steel, trickery, and sacrifice. And in every fallen predator, in every burning ship, there was a message. Humanity would not bow. The galaxy itself seemed to listen. Across distant stars, enslaved races heard whispers of resistance. For the first time, someone was fighting back. For the first time, the predators of the galaxy were bleeding. But the war was far from over. The predator fleet struck harder. Massive warships in orbit unleashed beams of destruction, tearing into cities, burning forests, boiling seas. Entire regions fell silent in fire. Thousands died in hours. The humans knew they could not match such power in open battle. Still, they did not give up. In hidden bases, commanders planned. In underground bunkers, scientists worked. Humanity had always been fast to adapt, to change, to turn weakness into strength. Even as the world burned, humans learned the designs of predator weapons. They studied fallen ships, they cracked codes, they found weaknesses. The warlord saw the resistance and laughed. To him, it was only the final struggle of prey refusing to die quietly. He promised his hunters that Earth would soon fall, that the humans' cries would fill their feast halls. But his laughter carried a shadow. Deep inside, something stirred. No prey had ever cost him so much. No prey had ever forced him to send so many warriors. For the first time in his long life, the warlord felt something he could not name. It was not fear. Not yet, but it was close. And on Earth, in the middle of the ruins, humans stood tall. A soldier, dirt and blood on his face, raised a flag over a burning city. His voice, carried by every broadcast, spoke the words that became a promise. They thought we would fall in a day. They thought we would bow, but we are still here. We are still fighting, and we will never stop. The Predator fleet heard those words. The warlord heard those words. And though he did not admit it, the sound of them echoed in his mind long after the battle ended. The humans had survived the first strike. They had given the galaxy something it had not seen in centuries. The first defiance. But the warlord swore vengeance. He gathered his fleet, preparing to unleash the full fury of his empire. He would show these humans the cost of their defiance. And yet the humans were already planning something more, something the Predators had never imagined, something that would take the fight beyond Earth. The hunt turns. The Predator warlord was furious. Never before had prey taken so much from him. Ships lost, warriors slain, pride wounded. It was a stain on the history of his empire. His ancestors had conquered empires, yet here he was, facing resistance from a single world at the edge of nowhere. He would not allow it to stand. The command went out. From across the stars, more fleets gathered. The largest armada in generations was forged. Warships by the hundreds, dreadnoughts heavy with firepower, carriers filled with warriors hungry for revenge. The warlord promised his people that Earth would not just be destroyed, it would be erased, burned until nothing remained but ash and silence. But humanity was not waiting idly. On Earth, scars of battle spread wide. Cities lay in ruins, skies black with smoke, oceans stirred by burning wreckage. Yet in that ruin, humans did not break. Instead, they grew sharper. Nations once divided by politics and war now stood together. Enemies became allies, rivals became brothers. Humanity had only one purpose: survival. Underground bunkers became laboratories. Captured Predator weapons were studied, cracked open, and rebuilt with human hands. Soldiers trained day and night, learning the ways of their hunters. Pilots studied Predator maneuvers. Engineers rewired alien machines. What once looked like unbeatable technology now showed weaknesses. Humans learned quickly. And with every lesson, the balance began to shift. When the Predator fleet returned, they came with overwhelming numbers. Their warlord looked down at Earth and spoke words that thundered across the stars. This ends now. His fleets descended, shadows covering continents. From the ground, the skies looked like they were falling. But this time, humanity did not scatter. They were ready. The first wave of Predator ships met walls of fire. Missiles launched from hidden silos, submarines rose from the depths with torpedoes, and fighter jets danced through the skies like swarms of wasps. The Predators were stronger, yes, but strength was not enough. Humans did not fight for glory or feast. They fought because they had no choice. They fought because survival was the only path forward, and something strange began to happen. The Predators, who always saw themselves as hunters, began to feel hunted. Streets turned into traps. Entire forests became killing grounds. Oceans swallowed their machines. Everywhere they went, humans waited. Every victory cost them dearly. Every step forward left blood behind. The warlord watched with growing rage. He had come to destroy, yet his forces were bleeding. No prey had ever done this. His pride would not allow him to admit it, but deep within, he knew the truth. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was something else. In the ashes of cities, stories spread. A squad of human soldiers lured an entire Predator unit into a canyon and buried them beneath explosives. A group of engineers hacked into a Predator warship, turning its guns against its own fleet. Civilians, untrained and unarmed, used courage and cunning to protect their homes, defying warriors twice their size. Each story spread across Earth like fire. Each act of defiance built something new, a spirit the Predators could not crush, and the galaxy was watching. For centuries, enslaved species had whispered of freedom, but none dared rise. The Predators were too powerful, too cruel, but now those same species heard something different. They heard of humans, small and fragile, who fought back with fire and will. Hope began to stir where none had lived before. The Predator warlord understood the danger. If the humans, inspired others his empire would face rebellion everywhere. He could not allow it. Earth had to fall, no matter the cost. So he ordered his greatest weapon. Above Earth, a colossal predator battleship, larger than any city, prepared to fire. Its weapon could split continents, boil oceans, burn away an entire species in seconds. The warlord smiled, certain this would end it, but humanity had seen it coming. Deep beneath the ground, human commanders activated a secret plan. They had studied predator codes, stolen predator technology, and built a trap hidden in their own skies. As the massive ship charged its weapon, satellites came alive. Lasers, jammers, and hacking codes struck all at once. For the first time, a predator superweapon failed. Its power turned inward, ripping the ship apart in a storm of fire. The explosion lit the night brighter than the sun, and the warlord's pride cracked like glass. The galaxy gasped. The hunters were bleeding, their empire trembling. And the humans, fragile and small, stood unbroken. The warlord clenched his claws, rage burning in his chest. He swore before his warriors that this would not end in defeat. He would summon every fleet, every warrior, every weapon his empire had. Humanity would be crushed, erased, forgotten. But even as he swore vengeance, he did not see what was already happening. In hidden hangars, humans built new ships. In secret, labs. They forged weapons not of predator design but of their own making. They were not just defending Earth anymore. They were preparing to strike back, and soon the hunters would learn what it meant to be hunted. Humanity strikes back. The ruins of Earth still smoked, but humanity was no longer hiding in fear. In bunkers, deep underground, in shipyards carved from mountains, in secret bases beneath the oceans, a new kind of war had begun. The predators had brought death, but they had also brought something else. Knowledge. Every broken weapon, every fallen ship, every captured device was studied by human hands. And humans, faster than any species the predators had ever met, turned that knowledge into power. For the first time in history, Earth prepared to take the fight beyond its skies. The predator warlord had gathered his armadas. Fleets stretched across the void, endless walls of steel. His pride demanded one final crushing blow. He told his warriors that humanity would be erased. But even as he roared his promises, his empire was beginning to fracture. News had spread across the stars. The humans were resisting. They were not prey. They were hunters. And other enslaved species began to whisper of rebellion. The warlord saw it as a sickness spreading through his domain. He swore that humanity was the cure source. Destroy Earth, destroy the idea of resistance, and all would be silent again. But Earth was no longer waiting to be destroyed. Hidden beneath the seas, human submarines rose, carrying something the galaxy had never seen before. Warships forged from predator wreckage, rebuilt with human minds. They were not elegant, but they were deadly. Their designs were sharp, their weapons stolen and improved. In orbit, experimental ships lifted off, clumsy yet filled with fire. Humanity had no great fleets, but it had something greater, the will to strike first. When the predator armada descended again, expecting to finish what they had started, they were met not with silence, but with fire from the skies. Human ships, smaller and fewer, burst from Earth's shadow like arrows. They tore into the larger vessels with reckless courage, ramming, hacking, detonating explosives hidden within their own hulls. The galaxy had never seen war fought like this. The predators fought with power. Humanity fought with desperation. Every pilot knew the odds. Every soldier knew the risk, but no one hesitated. They were willing to die if it meant their children might live, and their courage carried weight. Predator ships began to fall. Not many, not enough to turn the tide yet, but enough to shake the warlord's certainty. He had expected weakness. Instead, he faced madness, prey that threw itself into the jaws of the hunter and bit back. The warlord snarled, ordering his fleets to press harder to crush every human ship. And they did. Hundreds of humans died in moments. But even as they died, they inflicted wounds. A battleship's engines sabotaged. A cruiser hacked mid-battle, its guns firing on its own. A carrier swallowed in flames when human commandos detonated stolen warheads inside its core. The warlord began to realize something he had never considered. He could destroy humanity's bodies, but he could not destroy their spirit. Meanwhile, far from Earth, something else was happening. Across the galaxy, enslaved races were watching. On their screens, hidden in shadows, they saw humans stand where no one had stood before. They saw predator ships burning. They heard human voices shouting not in fear, but in defiance. And slowly, dangerously, hope began to rise. Whispers became plans. Secret messages moved through the stars. The galaxy was stirring. On Earth, leaders gathered in underground command centers. Maps glowed with enemy positions, ships, and numbers that seemed endless. Yet the commanders did not despair. Instead, they looked to a new plan, a plan that would take humanity's fight far beyond their planet. "Defense will not save us forever," one general said. "We must take the war to them." And so humanity's greatest gamble began. Using stolen predator drives, human engineers built vessels that could leap between stars. They were rough, they were unstable, but they worked. Volunteers filled them, soldiers, pilots, engineers, even civilians. Their mission was clear: strike at the predators not on Earth but in their own empire. The first raids were small. A human ship would appear above a predator outpost, strike with all its fire, and vanish again. Supply lines were cut. Prison camps were broken open. Enslaved species saw humans not only surviving but striking back. The predator warlord raged. He ordered entire fleets to hunt these raiders. But the humans were ghosts. They appeared, they struck, they disappeared. For every ship the predators destroyed, 2 more slipped past them. For the first time in centuries, the hunters were being hunted. And then came the boldest strike yet. A human fleet, fragile and small, launched an attack on a predator stronghold at the edge of their empire. It was madness, suicide, the predators thought. But the humans did not aim to win the battle. They aimed to send a message. They struck deep, igniting fuel reserves, detonating captured predator warheads, tearing the stronghold apart in a single blaze that lit the stars. The galaxy roared with whispers of rebellion. The warlord watched the destruction in silence. His claws dug into his throne. His warriors trembled, not because they doubted his power, but because they had seen something new. Their prey was not prey anymore. And as the warlord prepared his greatest fleet, as he swore that humanity would still fall, the truth was already spreading. The hunters were losing their crown. The galaxy's feast was turning against them, and humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was leading. The final hunt, the predator empire, had never been shaken like this. Worlds they once ruled with iron claws now whispered of freedom. Chains began to break in hidden corners. Slave camps stirred with rebellion. And at the center of it all stood humanity, a species no one had known only months before, now feared and respected across the stars. The predator warlord could not allow it. His pride, his empire, his entire legacy demanded that Earth be destroyed. He gathered every fleet he could command. From the farthest corners of his dominion, warships returned. The sky above his throne world darkened with the shadow of steel. His armada was vast, the greatest ever assembled. To him, this was not just war, it was vengeance. This will be the final hunt, he declared. And humanity will be remembered as nothing but bones on our tables. But humanity had learned too much to bow. On Earth, command centers buzzed with voices. Across secret bases on moons and asteroids, human ships prepared. They were not as many as the predators. They were not as strong. But they had something no predator could understand. They had unity. They had will. And now they had allies. For the first time, other species joined them. Small fleets of rebels, survivors of predator cruelty, rose from hiding. Broken ships, stolen weapons, ragged armies, all of them came. They had seen humanity's defiance, and it had given them courage. Humanity stood at the center, but they no longer stood alone. The final battle began above a nameless world at the edge of the galaxy. Predator fleets emerged like storms, endless, unstoppable. Their weapons burned with fury. Their engines screamed across the void. Against them rose humanity and their allies, fragile ships that shook under their own weight. The warlord laughed when he saw the human fleet. To him, it was nothing more than insects daring to sting a beast. But then the battle began and the galaxy changed. Human ships darted through the void with reckless courage. They struck at weak points, sacrificed themselves to tear holes in the predator wall. Smaller allied vessels followed, using human tactics to harass the giants. Explosions lit the stars like storms of fire. Predator warships fell, not easily, not quickly, but they fell. The warlord roared in fury, sending wave after wave, crushing everything in his path. Entire human squadrons died in moments. But every death carried weight. Every sacrifice carved another scar into the predator fleet. The hunters were bleeding, and then came humanity's final gamble. From the darkness beyond the battlefield, a hidden human strike force appeared. They carried the weapon their scientists had built in silence, a weapon no predator had ever seen. Not a beam of fire, not a blade of steel, but something simpler and far more deadly, a trap born of cunning. They had learned how predator ships fed power through their cores, how their pride left them blind to subtle flaws. The humans turned that pride against them. The strike force dove deep into the heart of the predator fleet. They hacked into their systems, overloading reactors, turning engines into bombs. One by one, predator vessels began to collapse in fire. The warlord's pride, his mighty armada, started to crumble before his eyes. But he would not retreat. His flagship, a monster of steel larger than any city, drove forward. He wanted Earth. He wanted humanity's heart crushed beneath his claws. He activated weapons that split the darkness itself. Human ships scattered, but they did not run. They closed around him, fragile and determined. The warlord's voice thundered across the comms. "You are nothing. You are prey." And prey always dies. But a human commander answered with words that would echo forever. "We are not prey. We are the hunters now." The final clash shook the stars. Human ships rammed the flagship, detonating their cores inside its hull. Explosions tore through its body, ripping metal apart. The warlord fought to the last, roaring his fury. But the fire consumed him. His empire's crown shattered in the blaze. Silence followed. The predator fleets that remained broke. Some fled, some surrendered. Across the galaxy, enslaved species rose in open rebellion. The hunter's reign was finished, and at the center of it all stood humanity. Scarred, battered, but unbroken. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as victims, not as prey, but as something far greater. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were the species that had turned fear into fire. The war was not without cost. Earth was wounded. Millions were gone. Cities lay in ashes. But humanity had endured. And more than that, they had led the galaxy to something new. Hope. The story would be told for generations. The predators had claimed the galaxy as their feast. But when they came to Earth, they met something they had never expected. Their final hunt.